we have finally made it to April, which means two things. Number one, that spring is officially here and has been here for about a week now. And the second thing is that it is game time for starting the rest of our seeds, which is such a wild thing to think about when literally I have feet of snow still behind me, but it doesn't mean that we need to stop in our gardens. And so this is now the time to be starting all of those seeds that you haven't been starting yet. And I am going to take you through all of those in today's video. If you're new here, my name is Bree from Urban Gardening Canada, and I garden in Ottawa Zone 5. And so if you grow in a Zone 5 or warmer, then you will be starting all of your seeds along with me in the beginning of April. If you are in Zone 4 or colder, then you can also be starting your seeds at the beginning of April, or you can wait a couple of weeks depending on what your weather looks like. I know in the Toronto area that they have no snow, and so it's going to look different for them. I know that in the interior of BC, there's not a lot of snow. And then here in Eastern Ontario and parts of Quebec, we still have snow, but it is getting warmer, and so it is going to melt. And so you are going to want to work on it based off of what your weather's looking like. And I hope you find this video helpful. So if you love to grow flowers, I am going to be doing a Sow These Flowers in March coming up on Sunday. If you're watching this and it's already out, I will link it below, but otherwise you're definitely going to want to subscribe to the channel to make sure that you get the Sunday video of all of the flowers to grow, but there's just too many things to talk about to include them in today's video. Okay, so I am going to start with all of the plants that you want to sow indoors, and then I am going to take you through any of the items that you're going to either direct sow into the garden in April, or you're actually going to be getting ready to plant outside. And so starting with the direct sow items, the vegetables that you can be starting now include squash like zucchini, which is one of my favorite things to grow. You're going to want to start those inside, as well as other types of squash. So your patty pans, your butternut squash, your trampuccino, any of those ones that you grow that are summer or winter stored ones, you're going to want to start those inside now. And related to that includes pumpkins to start, as well as watermelon and cantaloupe. So these are all of your large seed, fast growing vegetables that are vining. You never want to start them too early because they grow super fast and they will take over your house. And so starting them in the beginning of April to mid-April gives you the opportunity to have them be a decent size without them overwhelming your entire house. So similar style of growing would be to start your cucumbers now as well, because these are also vining and grow up a trellis. You really don't want to be starting them too soon, so you're definitely going to want to start them now that it's April. Another one you can be starting indoors is corn. This one can be direct sown, but I like to, another Chinook? Guys, another Chinook is going by. Let me see if I can catch it for you. Can you see him? That's the best I can do for zooming in. But there goes a Chinook. I don't know why he's doing circles today. Okay, so as I was saying, corn can be started indoors or outdoors, it's up to you. I will direct sow some probably later in the season, but I do like to start mine inside so that way they get a little bit of a head start. And also if there's cutworms around, I can maybe try and avoid them because they will take down your corn if you have any around. And then the last ones that you can be starting now include Napa cabbage and bok choy. And so these are your warm loving cabbages that don't quite love the cold as much as your typical heading cabbage does. Although I did grow my Napa cabbage out fairly early last year and they did really well, even though the package says to wait until temperatures are above 10 degrees. I was able to get mine to work, so it's really up to you if you want to try them outside or inside. And before I get into the seeds that you can be direct sowing outside, I do want to mention that I have a newsletter. So if you're not subscribed to it and you want to check it out, I send it out 2 times a month. And inside my newsletter, I talk about what's new on my website articles, what is new on YouTube, and then I do some kind of special topic every single month. So I've done one on biodiversity, one on chickadees, And I like to just give tips and interesting facts that you might not know other than what's coming through this newsletter. So if you're interested in joining it, I will leave a link in the description below. And otherwise, let's get into the seeds that you can be direct sowing. And so obviously, do not direct sow your plants if there is still snow on the ground. However, if you choose to cover your gardens up with hoops, or you have a cold frame such as what I have back here, and you have them closed and you've melted all of the snow and warmed up the soil, as soon as that soil is workable is exactly when you can be direct sowing your plants. And so plants that you want to be direct sowing include peas, which everybody knows is one of those amazing spring vegetables that you can be getting. And you can also be planting broad beans right now. And so they really like the cold, and they're kind of an underrated plant being grown in the US and Canada, or in North America as a whole. They're quite underrated, but they're amazing cold season crops that produce you a nice protein filled vegetable that you can be getting early in the season. And so you are going to want to be direct sowing those broad beans as well. Other vegetables that you can be direct sowing include radish and carrots. Both of them like the cool weather too. And so you can be sowing those outside and getting an early crop before everybody else is getting anything in the ground. You can already be set up to get your carrots into a good size and your radishes being ready to harvest 30 days from when you plant them out. And so again, if your soil is workable, go ahead and do that. So other plants that you can test about direct sowing include lettuce, spinach, Swiss chard, kale, cilantro, and dill. All of these are cool season crops, and so you can technically direct sow these in the ground too. But if you've watched any of my previous month's videos where I was telling you what to sow in those months, you'll know that I told you to sow most of those indoors, except for the cilantro and dill, which I might have actually. But I told you to sow all of those either in January, February, or March, because you can actually be planting those plants out right now, because a lot of these cold hardy crops, such as your kale, can handle temperatures down to -7 degrees Celsius. Of course, you're going to want to cover them if you have any form of a frost coming, so just keep an eye on frost. But otherwise, you can be planting these vegetables in the ground already in April. And if you did start them inside and you didn't direct sow them, make sure that you're hardening them off the same way you would with any of your other plants. So start off with 30 minutes a day in the shade for a few days and slowly work your way up into the sunshine, because you really don't want to sunburn your plants. So if you did start any of these cold season crops such as kale, spinach, lettuce, Swiss chard, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, all of these cold season crops, if you started them inside, get them hardened off and get them planted out in the garden. Honestly, if you are in a zone 6 or warmer, you can absolutely get them into the ground in the beginning of April. And once my snow melts, I promise to have mine out as soon as the snow is melted. And so I'm hoping that this is going to be by mid-April is really what I'm hoping for. And I'm gonna have mine out right away, because I promise you, you are going to have a full bowl of salad greens by the beginning of May, while other people are just starting their hardening off process. And so if you're a gardener, you really should get into experimentation and testing things out. And so it's a really fun thing that you could be doing to really pushing the limits on how you can grow. And especially if you have a cold frame or a hoop house, you can absolutely get your stuff out even earlier. I've even planted peppers out before my last frost date, because I know if I cover them up, they're gonna stay warm and safe. And so push those boundaries and see what you can do. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, check out Sunday's video when it comes out on the flowers that you could be sowing in April. And if you liked today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in this video here. Bye.